The warships had descended without warning, not with fire, not with missiles, with silence, a silence so deep it pressed against the ears of every soldier on the base. 12 vessels, each the size of a mountain, had arranged themselves in a perfect arc above the coastal city of Venlor. No weapons charged, no transmissions of hostility, just the awful, patient stillness of a civilization that had nothing to prove. General Harwick ordered his finest regiment to the plaza. 20 soldiers stood in formation when the ramp lowered. Each one was a veteran, men and women who had fought in the northern campaigns, who had held lines through storms of fire and steel. They stood with chests forward and rifles steady, their armor catching the pale morning light. Sergeant Kael Doran stood at the far end of the line. He was 23 years old, the youngest of them all. He hadn't been assigned to this detail. He had simply refused to stand down when the order came. His commanding officer, Lieutenant Ferris, had looked at him for a long moment and then said nothing. There was something about the way Kael stood, still and certain, like a tree that had grown directly through stone, that made arguments feel pointless. The ramp finished descending. She walked down it alone. Her name, as they would later learn, was Sylvain, Princess of the Valeth Dominion, first heir to the 7 rings of the Outer Reach. She was tall, nearly a full head above the largest soldier present, with silver-white braids that moved like water in a wind that was not there. Her armor was dark as deep ocean, trimmed in gold that seemed to breathe with its own soft light. A crown of angular gold sat across her brow, set with a single teal stone that pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. Her eyes were the color of a sky caught between a storm and a sunrise, deep cyan, luminous, ancient. She walked the length of the formation slowly, not inspecting, searching. General Harwick stepped forward. Princess Sylvain, on behalf of the United Terran Council, I offer formal greetings and— She did not stop walking. The general fell silent. Around him, his officers exchanged glances. No one moved. Even the wind seemed to hold itself back. Sylvain reached the end of the line. She stopped. She turned. Her gaze settled on Kael Doran with the quiet certainty of someone who has found something they had been looking for across a very long distance. Then she raised her hand, gloved in white, one finger extended, and pointed directly at him. He, she said, in clean, unaccented Terran standard, will be mine. The words fell into the silence, like stones into still water. No one breathed. Kael did not flinch. He met her gaze the way he met everything, without rushing, without retreating. His expression did not shift. He simply looked back at her as though he were quietly deciding something. General Harwick recovered first. Princess, with respect, this man is a soldier of the Terran military. He is not. I know what he is, Sylvain said, without looking away from Kael. I have traveled 40 light years and crossed 2 dying star systems to find him. Your protocols are not my concern. You came here for him specifically? Harwick's voice cracked on the last word. For his bloodline, she corrected. For the Doran line. A warrior clan whose ancestors stood beside the Valeth in the first reckoning 700 years ago, and whose debt was never repaid. She finally turned to face the general. I am here to honor that debt. He has been chosen for a role that will determine whether 3 civilizations survive the coming collapse. Harwick stared. What collapse? The one you cannot yet detect. She turned back to Kael. But he can feel it. Can't you, Sergeant? The plaza went quiet. Kael was silent for a moment. Then, in a low voice, he said, I've been dreaming of it for 4 years. A darkness that moves like a tide. I thought I was losing my mind. Sylvain's expression shifted. Something softened at the edges, just briefly, like winter releasing its grip on a single morning. You were not losing your mind. You were being called. The soldiers on either side of Kael shifted uneasily. Lieutenant Ferris took a step forward. Sergeant Doran is under no obligation. No, Kael said quietly. He stepped out of the line. One step.
Clean.
Deliberate. Ferris grabbed his arm.
Kael.
Think about what you're. I've thought about it, Kael said. He did not pull away. He simply looked at his lieutenant with the calm of someone who had already made peace with the decision. Those dreams, Ferris. Every night for 4 years. A black tide, and a voice telling me there was something I was supposed to do. He paused. I think this is it. Ferris released him. Kael walked forward and stood before Sylvain. He was a full foot shorter than her, young in a way that was visible in the set of his jaw, the freshness of his face. But his eyes were steady, and she looked into them for a long moment with something that might have been recognition. You understand, she said quietly, that the path ahead is not safe. I'm a soldier, he replied. Safe isn't the job. For the first time, something crossed her face that the assembled soldiers had not expected to see, the faintest trace of a smile. Then walk with me, she said. She turned and walked back toward the ramp. After a single breath, Kael followed. General Harwick stood with his mouth open. Behind him, 20 veterans watched in silence as the youngest among them disappeared into a ship from the far edge of the universe, carrying the weight of 3 civilizations on the shoulders of a boy who had simply refused to stand down. The ramp rose. The ship climbed. And somewhere above the clouds, Sergeant Kael Doran sat across from an alien princess who watched him with those deep cyan eyes and said nothing at all, because she had already said everything that mattered.